Hey everybody, welcome back. Breakfast with Bob, Boston Marathon Edition. We're presented and hosted by Highlands, Stop Your Cramp, Not Your Race, and by Polar, Chase Your Destiny. We have with us Jarrod Shoemaker, 2008 Olympian, right, in Beijing, and more importantly,
yes,
his mom, May. How many times have you run Boston, May?
This will be my 33rd.
Let's get this right.
33rd.
33rd time running Boston. How many in a row?
28 in a row.
What the heck? What got you into this crazy stuff?
It was a challenge by a friend of mine who said, if I get you a number, will you race? And
now, had you been running?
Small 10Ks.
Yeah.
And I'd never run really more than 6 or 7 miles. And I went out there, ran the first race, said I'll never do this again. And the next year I was on the starting line, and the next year, and the next year. I did have 1 year I didn't run because I had a baby.
Oh,
So,
what were you thinking?
Yeah, one of these kids.
One of these. Now, how many kids?
4.
4. And all of them were athletes, I'm guessing.
All of them are athletes.
So when did you know this guy could be not just an athlete, but potentially an Olympic athlete?
You never really
2007.
2007.
You never really believe that your child could do something like that, but all of my kids have such determination. When he, in high school, was doing all
10 varsity letters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cross country, track, swim. So Jarrod, growing up, obviously, you were always an athlete.
Yeah.
And swimming and running. When did triathlon come in?
The first time I heard about triathlon was in '99. My uncle actually raced in Ironman. He got into Kona and he raced in Kona, and they all went out and supported him. And that was the first time I'd ever heard about what a triathlon was.
Right.
And so I always had it in the back of my mind after that. And throughout college, that was kind of, maybe I'll do a little biking. I'll keep my swimming up because I might get into that. So.
And it's okay. And when did you make the move?
I officially made the move after I graduated in 2004 from Dartmouth, but I had in my mind about a year before that I was probably going to do triathlons because my running was good. I ran like 14:09 for 5K, but that's not what Ben's running 13:02 for 5K.
So as an elite runner, you're a little bit off of that, but for triathlon,
correct, exactly. Yeah, I was a very good runner, but I needed to be excellent to even try and make the Olympics. And so triathlon, I had the swimming background, I had the running background. I just needed to learn how to bike.
Which is basically what happened with Gwen Jorgensen, what happened with Katie Zafaris, is they had swim-run background, and you learn to ride to ride the bike. How hard was it to learn how to ride? Not just ride the bike, but race the bike.
Hard, and I'm still learning how to ride the bike hard. I learned how to race draft legal really well. I learned bike handling and all that, no problem. I never really got good at time trialing on the bike because I was immediately into that draft legal style, and I was doing, the high power, rest, recover, and just trying to stay with the pack. So yeah, it's different. They're very different sports, to be honest. Draft legal and non-draft,
totally different world. Because in draft legal, basically you're racing a crit. Yeah. Right? You are accelerating out of the turns. You've got to be a bike handler. You've got to be watching everybody's move. It's really steady state when you're racing non-draft. But the problem is that the non-draft has gotten so fast. Right? Yeah. These guys, what used to be for a 70.3, a 215 was a good bike split. Now, if you're not going 205, you're in a different zone.
And those guys are running fairly well too. So if you're 5 to 7 minutes behind now,
done.
Even if you can't make up 5 to 7 minutes on the run, you'd be running a 105, and they're still going to run a 110. So, I mean, it's a very different, and they're good swimmers now too. The swim has changed, and that was the big change in ITU from when I first got in it, 2004, 5, 6, till 2012. Really, it was the swim. The swim got so much better. They were always clearly defined packs, and now the swim's just
ridiculous,
crazy.
Right?
Yeah,
it's sprinting. So, May,
yes.
Your best ever Boston?
It was the year that I didn't train and that I ran around 3:20.
Wow!
But
without training, so
without training,
why train? Well, that's a waste of time.
It gets more like the older you get, the less training you do. So
I agree.
Yeah, so I'm running somewhere around 4 hours now.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
So in terms of training and age, how have you adapted because a lot of us, can do some of the same workouts, but you sort of need more days off in between.
I don't take any days off.
Oh, okay.
I just run different distances, and I just keep running. I feel like my body needs to just keep in that mode.
Yeah.
So, and now when I first started, I didn't work full time. Now I'm working full time, so I had to cut back. So my goal now always is just to finish, and by running every day, the kids laugh at me because I really don't have any speed. I just sort of just go at the same pace all the time, and
what's wrong with that?
It works.
You don't get injured.
I've never really had a major injury, so that's good.
Jarrod, what have you learned from your mom, from just her dedication to endurance all these years?
I think that's it. It's the dedication, and that was the thing that I got growing up, was watching both my parents. They went and they ran every day, and and my mom's running every day, and that's where I started. I would try and go out and bike with them to start off with. Hey, can I come bike with you? And I'd bike next to them.
And you were how old?
I don't know.
From the time he was like 6, 7.
Yeah, and then it was,
sister,
can I start running with them? And that was the next step, was running, and that's when I got into running in 7th grade.
Yeah.
We had cross country in my middle school, and so that's when I was like, oh, I'm gonna go run with them. And so that's
were they dusting you at that point?
I don't know. I don't remember too much about that.
He was pretty fast. I think his coaches at that point knew that he was pretty talented.
Yeah. So let's talk about the year before the Olympic Games. You're racing the test race in Beijing, and you end up making the team. Did you surprise yourself that day?
I don't think I surprised myself as much as everybody else.
Yeah.
I knew.
Surprised me.
Did you surprise you?
I wasn't there, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, we're going to the Olympics!"
That's what's so cool about
that was cool.
You basically a year ahead of time. That makes a big difference, right?
Yeah, it was. I knew that I had a 1 in 6 shot just being on the start line.
Right.
You
just got to beat the other Americans. You don't care about the other guys.
Exactly, and that was my race plan, was to be in it and just know where the other Americans were and just go for it. And I started the runoff, and I was top 3. I think it was me, Hunter, and Andy were towards the front, and I said, all right, I just need to be in front of him. And Hunter was coming up fast on me at the end, but I knew I just had to get across the finish line first. And
so the first guy is the only guy who got a spot.
That was it. It was first no matter what spot you came in.
Oh, so you didn't have to be top 9 or top whatever.
No.
You just had to be first American.
Yep.
Had you beaten Hunter before?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe not. I'm not sure. I mean, I was definitely kind of below those guys. Yes. Hunter and Andy and Matt were
Hunter
definitely.
Hunter had been on a couple teams already.
Yeah, exactly.
2000, 2004.
Yeah, and he was ranked, top 5 in the world at that point. So yeah, those guys were all amazing, and so for me, I just knew that I had to be in that mix, and if I could stay in the bike group, I had the run.
And it
worked.
And I think I remember seeing a photo of a projectile, right at the end, little projectile vomit, and making the Olympic team at the same time.
Oh yeah, there was Hunters coming up behind me. I'm going to keep going, and puking while running is really actually hard to do. It's
very hard.
And I didn't care. I was getting across the finish line.
And so that wasn't the first time he had thrown up.
Really?
So he had thrown up when he won New York City on his sister's over there.
After I finished.
She hugged him, and we have another picture of...
So he's the puker.
And we always told him, you're not running hard enough. Coming from somebody who had been running, and you're not running hard enough unless you get sick at the end. And he learned it very well.
For somebody who runs steady state and doesn't get out of the comfort zone, doesn't speed work. But for you, I think it'd be good for you to run hard and puke. That would be really, really good. So, Jarrod, what was the Olympic experience like? Did the whole family go over?
We did. It was incredible.
Beijing was pretty special.
Yeah, Beijing was special, and besides seeing him run, seeing Michael Phelps win all those medals, that was really a cool year.
It was a very cool year.
Yeah, it was fun. We had, I don't even remember how many, but aunts and uncles and
friends showed up.
And, we had so many people over there, and it was that's the amazing experience, is having your family and friends sharing it, and that's kind of what I remember out of it, is that, and that also was the fact that we were outside the village in our own kind of little area, so we weren't really in the village that much. The couple days we were in the village was really cool to see the other athletes, but it was weird. We didn't really interact with the athletes, and that's also a Summer Olympics thing, because it's so busy. The Americans actually, they kind of get you in and get you out.
Right.
Whereas the Winter Olympics seem to be a little more like, here, have some fun, hang out, enjoy it.
Right.
But yeah, I loved it. It was an amazing experience. It was so cool to share it with family and just to have them there watching and cheering, no matter what happened.
So was the goal then to try to get back in 2012 in London?
Oh yeah. The goal is to be there in 2012 and 2016, and 2012 I was ranked first or second. Matt Charbot and I were first or second for all those years leading in, and Hunter and Manny just had an amazing race on the day, and they had to finish top 8 or 9, and the two of them did.
In San Diego.
You know, and the 2 weeks before, I was 9th in Sydney, and you know, and then I was, I think, 18th in San Diego, and just didn't have the perfect race. And you know, that's racing. Exactly. And I can't blame myself. I think I was in good shape, and those guys had amazing races.
They really did.
Yeah.
Especially Hunter. He'd been out for basically a year, injuries, and he had, you know, it was one of his first races of the year, and he finished top 9, and Manny finished top 9, and it was really, really good racing.
Yeah.
So the transition, I always find it interesting. You talk about transitioning from, you're doing a race that's a hour and 50-minute race, and now it's okay. The next step in the sport of triathlon should be Olympic non-drafting, and there was for a while.
There was. There's a little bit again. Escape's coming back.
Coming back, right?
New York City has a race, so
but then it sort of went away, and people were forced to. I imagine a 100-meter guy being told, "Okay, you got to go run a 10K."
Yeah,
that's basically what it was. You went from having to do an Olympic distance race with a 10K run and a 40K bike and a 1,500-meter swim to now you've got to go double that if you want to be successful. And you're changing the way you ride the bike. It makes it a totally different sport, non-drafting. How tough was that transition for you?
Yeah, the transition to non-draft has definitely been tougher than I expected. I knew it was going to be hard for me. The swim kind of gets thrown out the window, to be honest. I mean, you can make a gap, but in an Ironman, I mean, if you come 20 seconds ahead, it doesn't even matter. I mean, they catch you within the first 2 miles.
Right.
So that's been the toughest thing for me. Is it isn't necessarily even like the biking itself. It's actually learning to stay in the aero position. Just being in that position has been the hardest thing for me to figure out. And we made some changes this winter, and I'm on 165 cranks now to open up my hip angle. So we've been playing around with stuff like that to see if it's a little bit better. I mean, I can tempo running fine, so it's just learning how to do it on the bike, and it's also learning how to maneuver and react. And you know, 70.3s have almost become long Olympic distance races.
They really have, and people are doing them like they're freaking. They're running a 5K. They're doing like 10, 11, 12 of them a year. It's
exactly.
Nuts. Those are half marathons,
and they're doing them at 90% of LT, which is crazy. And Ironman, the guys are just such strong bikers. I mean, the bike just is so important that, and those guys are good runners now. So it's not. There's not the difference in, you know, hey, he's a biker and he can't really swim and run. Everybody's very good at everything now, so it definitely has made it much more challenging to break in, and the fields are a lot deeper now than they used to be. So I mean, you know, it's good though, right? You go race and you want to get better, so it's forced me to learn how to improve instead of just relying on the things that I'm good at.
Do you look at the 70.3 or the full as better for you?
Ooh, I used to think the full was better for me. I'm actually going backwards this year. I'm actually going to be doing a lot more Olympic distance and a couple 70.3s this year.
Oh, good. So Olympic non-drafting, because you've got the Escape 2 Alcatraz series, you got New York, you got Chicago, you got Alcatraz.
Exactly. So for me, there's a couple things going on with, you know, Alicia and I just trying to figure out what makes the most sense for us to race. And honestly, the big problem with full distance Ironman that I have is that you can't race that often. So you can only race a couple times a year, and you have to put everything into that race, and it's about a 6-week block beforehand that you can't do anything else, and a 4-week after where you have to recover.
Weeks,
and so you're looking at 10 weeks. So if you take 2 10-week blocks plus the training you have to do, you know, it makes it really hard, and you don't really want to race 3 of them a year.
No.
So we kind of looked at that and said, all right, there's opportunities to do some Olympic distance and some 70.3s, so we're going to kind of sit with that for right now and maybe do an Ironman at the end of the year. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, you know, it's so funny because when you were doing ITU, you knew exactly where you're going to be all year long.
Exactly.
You laid those things out.
Yep.
Now it's, you know, you're doing your block and you don't feel quite ready, so you look for the next race. How hard is it to balance when your wife is a professional triathlete as well, and she's more long distance? Now, will Alicia be doing some of the Olympic as well?
Yeah, she's going to be doing Olympic distance stuff as well. It's, you know, for us, there's a lot of moving parts this year for both of us, so we're we decided that we're just going to go race hard and see what happens. So we've kind of set our schedule. I've never raced St. Anthony's before, so
you'll love it.
I'm racing that in 2 weeks.
I'm going down to watch.
I'm actually racing a Huntington Beach escape race in 6 days after Boston, so we'll see how that goes.
I think I might be there too.
Yeah, really? Yeah. Oh, yeah. We could talk about how with the marathon 6 days later doing an Olympic distance try feels like. Yeah, and then we're going to do probably, well, Alicia's already in Alcatraz.
Yes.
If I make it, I'll do it. If not, I'll do a 70.3, and then we're going to do Philly and New York City. So those races just kind of worked, and then after that, you've got August, September, so we'll
see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. We're getting a good base in, just enjoying it, training hard.
And what's your goal here?
My goal is 235.
Okay. Oh.
And I didn't stop my triathlon training. I kept doing triathlon training.
Which you should.
Right. Well, that's what I do is triathlon. So this was the fun side of things, racing the marathon. I guess that's fun. So I figure I've done 3 or 4 of them after swimming and biking, so it shouldn't be too hard.
He's going to be able to swim on Monday. I think.
Yeah.
That'll get him halfway through the race.
I know. So, Mom, have you done triathlon?
They've convinced me to do a few. I did one of the ITUs with them in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
That was interesting. I don't bike much. I'm a swimmer and a runner.
Oh,
so
there you go.
I've done that, and I've done some short ones with them, but the biking, especially living in New England, the biking training on the bike is very tough.
Yes.
So, yeah. I'll watch.
Watching is good.
I'll watch.
Love it.
I'll run.
So you guys aren't running together on Monday?
No. I'm in the second corral. He's in the first. I'm going to be chasing his tail end.
I love that.
I love it. And he'll be waiting at the end, hopefully.
He's going to be like, yeah. Hopefully he'll have the puke already gone.
It's all right.
The puke and the warm clothes. Yeah.
That's okay. I'm so proud that one of my kids is fine, and potentially it was 2. This is the first time that my kids have been able to run, and all the years that I was running, I said, the year my kids run, I'm going to stop. Well, you get those streaks going, and I can't. I got to at least get to 30.
You got to
at least.
Yeah, I got to get to 30. Yeah.
Jarrod, May, thank you so much for taking time.
Thank you very much.
Really a pleasure. Again, Breakfast with Bob Boston edition, presented and hosted by Highland, Stop Your Cramp, Not Your Race, and by Polar, Chase Your Destiny. Hold on, everybody. We'll be right back.